Warning, today's episode will contain spoilers for The Last of Us Season 2, and of course Season 1, and maybe some of the game too.
Oh, I think the game's going to come up.
Hello! My name is Jason Concepcion.
And I'm Rosie Knight.
And welcome back to X-Ray Vision, the podcast where we dive deep into your favorite shows, movies, comics, and pop culture, coming to you from our podcast where we're bringing you 3 episodes a week. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, plus news.
News. On Saturday. News. You can only whisper it. It's like a law or something. But in today's episode, wow. We're convening the Jackson Hole Council, or I guess now maybe it's like the Satellite Seattle Council.
Yeah.
For The Last of Us Season 2 Roundtable after that pretty shocking finale, which I am so excited to see how people felt about it.
I can't wait to see.
Dude,
Let's
I feel like
get
this
into it.
is gonna be crazy divisive. Like, not necessarily in the council, I don't know, but in the fandom, like, I think people are gonna be.
I think in the
losing
fandom,
it.
well, listen, that's not considering the way the
Not
fandom
new.
discussions
Not
have been
new.
going. That's not a surprise. Okay, let's get into it. All right, folks, please welcome super producers Joelle and Aaron to the show.
Heard of them?
How are
Ever heard of
you?
them?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Feeling that Ellie fuel rage fire.
Ellie,
I gotta
Ellie
say,
Rage.
any fucking person who questioned whether Bella Ramsey had the juice, they better be swallowing
eat
those
it.
words right
Yeah.
now, because
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
episode is a powerhouse. Aaron, how you doing?
I mean, I never questioned whether or not Bella had the juice. I questioned whether or not Bella was during in a physical pain, and then we see all the bruises on her back. All right, yeah, she's getting it. I get it. This is real stunts. Yeah, no.
Okay, so let's just quick 30,000 foot view. What did we think of the season before we get to the finale? Joelle, let's start with you.
Well, I was talking to Aaron before we hopped on mic, and I was fresh. I was like, damn you, Craig. Because the whole season, I was like, wow, this is paced so awkwardly. Like, I don't understand. Like, we have this great character, Isaac, and you barely spend any time with him at all.
Yeah.
Like, we're bouncing back and forth. We got flashbacks. Like,
Hanrahan, does Hanrahan have a line? Does Alana Ubach have a line? I mean, we just kind of see
like
her
one or two?
walk through a scene. Yeah.
maybe, like, and so it was irritating to me because I never felt like I was enveloped in the story. The pacing was just so jarring. But then this finale was so damn good. I was like,
It's so good.
oh. And it brought me back to this. He did an interview with Tony Gilroy on his podcast, Script Notes. He was saying, like, I don't know when I'll go back to being able to make a movie. Like, I've signed on for this. It's such a long journey. I was like, buddy, you made a movie. You made a movie instead of a TV show. And I'm not even mad about it. It's good.
Yeah.
I just sort of wish we had been able to binge it. I think a lot of this fan BS, like, where there were so many people who genuinely enjoyed the game and had genuine critiques that I think were valid, that I think might have enjoyed the series a great deal more if they had been able to just binge it and get the whole idea in one, if not one sitting, like one or two
Are we
sittings.
Andor pilled? Have we been like Andor
I
season
think-
2 pilled? Is that
I
the
think
issue?
we have been Andor pilled. I also think that for a show with only 7 episodes, and I understand, look, we did weekly coverage of this show, and we were absolutely not the only podcast or outlet to do it. Like, I get HBO gets the conversation going, but I think that in this specific case, if they had done a secret binge drop, this would have been perceived as such a stronger season, because it is very uneven. But I do think that the finale ties things together and leaves us in a space where I actually want to know what's going to happen
Makes
next.
the journey
Aaron,
worth it.
Yeah, it makes the journey worth it. Aaron, how did the season sit for you?
I
Big
loved
picture.
it. I loved it. I mean, I think in our last roundtable after episode 5, we briefly talked about how season 1 felt more focused on individual storylines, and season 2 has been all about these groups and these armies or these organizations or cities and the people within it. And I really felt like the season finale did such a good job of showing that all of these communities are at risk when one individual acts out and is brash and is dangerous and goes against what the community maybe should do, and then suddenly, like, you know, whether it be Abby going and doing more than the rest of the WOF team wanted when they captured Joel and staying longer, and then that puts all of them at risk, and then they're dying, or whether it's Ellie like doing things that, you know, the town council voted against. Like, it's really interesting to see this finale bring it all back together and say this show is still about individual choices, and it's sometimes a really horrible result for the rest of the people involved.
Let's talk a little bit more about kind of a more zoomed in, specifically about the finale. Joelle, what was it that worked for you, and kind of what was your journey as you went from that opening all the way to that finale, which at the final moments I think are going to really have people talking?
I think so too. Okay, I think two things worked for me. One, the thesis of season 1 seemed to be like, what will you do for love? Like, what's the line, right?
Right.
In season 2, it's all culminated in like what happens to the children. And it's so hammered home beautifully in this final episode where constantly, you know, Ellie's sort of predicated on this whole idea. She's very concerned of like, I am a good person and my best friend doesn't think so. Like, nobody sees me as being good.
Yeah.
And she's like, I had to save that kid. I'm a good person. Like, Joel was a good person. He saved me. Then later, she's betrayed by a child on the banks. You know, if she had been tactically thinking, that was a very cute little girl, but you might have taken her out because, you know, survival. It's wild out here. And then, of course, with the tragedy at the end, with a pregnant woman understanding she's dying and be like, please just save my kid. What happens to the kids? And so to, like, so strongly repeat that theme and really, like, narrow laser focus it in on Ellie. Part 2 of what really works is Ellie's rage is now understandable. I still wish we had a little peeps of it, even if it was in her silent moments, if she wasn't expressing it with her friends or whatever. I do wish we had a little bit more throughout the season. But for it, when the confrontation, when she's like, hey, I found it. That's the wheel in the whale. Okay, I'm gonna go. Like, there's a storm and Tommy's out there. And it was crazy to me. Like, Tommy's out there. And she's like, yeah, but Tommy would want me to go get Joel's killer. And it's like, no, Tommy's alive. Tommy is alive right
Tommy's
now.
Tommy's here.
He's here. You could go get him and still go get revenge for Joel. But you can't even differentiate, like, time and space. You're just so laser focused. And, like, seeing those decisions play out, again, everything before and everything after, so much more like palpable and intense. And I think all of that just culminated so beautifully together. I really enjoyed like watching those sequences. It was heartbreaking.
Yeah, I was shocked actually by how much I enjoyed it, because I really struggled with Nora's death earlier in the season. I felt like it didn't feel authentic to Ellie. I felt like it was very just like a light switch that I didn't really understand why it was turned on, and I didn't think that it was particularly well done, and I just, it made me dislike Ellie, but not in a way that felt intentional. But the way that they dealt with Mel and Owen and the changes they made, I found it to be incredibly affecting.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that, I mean, that the scene where Ellie is trying to figure out how she can follow these instructions to save the child are so harrowing and hard to watch. And I think also, you know, if there's one thing this season has done right, I think it's drilling down on that idea that while Ellie is doing something that I think that resonates with us in a very human and emotional way, you know, revenge, justice. You feel like something totally unjust has happened and you want to make it right, and you have it in your power to make it right. And at the same time, examining how that can turn you into like an angel of death, you know? You
Even
just killed a
unintentionally.
pregnant woman. Even unintentionally.
Like,
yeah,
she
well, it's
didn't
like, what does it
wanna
matter?
kill them.
It's like, yeah, you can whisper to her as she's dying, hey, I didn't mean it. You know, like, what does
you
that
still
really
killed her.
mean? Yeah, what does that really mean to not have meant to do that? And you would ask the same of Joel. And it made me think of, I watch this show on the beleaguered Showtime network, Couples Therapy.
Oh,
I don't know if
you love
anybody
couples
heard.
therapy.
I do
man.
love
couples
those.
therapy.
Jason is
Oh,
a
so
number one
good.
couples therapy
Yeah.
I
stan.
do.
You know, couples therapy X-ray vision crossover. It
I
could
love
happen.
it.
He loves that show.
Here for
But
it.
she was talking to this couple who were having, there's these recriminations going back and forth. Like, you did this. Okay, yeah, but like I did that because you did this first. And she was like, actually, wait, hold on. I want to stop you because it's not actually important who did what first. And both partners were like, well, I think it is important because it's what. And she's like, yes, in a legal sense. Like if we were in a courtroom, that's important, right? But in terms of stopping this, of moving on from this cycle, it's not important. And that scene really reminded me of that because I think it's, we've talked a lot about the changes that they've made vis-a-vis Ellie, and we've talked a lot about some of the more unhinged criticisms of Ellie. Like, oh, they nerfed her. She's not like this crazy John Wickian
She's not killing 150
killer,
people
you know?
every 30 minutes.
And I think those changes are positive, and I think they're positive because of this scene here. This is the scene where whatever they end up doing, if they end up following the kind of blueprint of the game with in the final confrontation between Ellie and Abby, it's because of this scene that it will make sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just thought it was tremendously impactful and important, and kind of what the entire show is about is like either choose life or choose death, but you can't choose them both. You really can't choose them both. Aaron, what do you?
Yeah,
what about you?
this was a heartbreaking scene. I mean, Mel dying and just whispering, "You're doing great. You're doing great." Like that was heartbreaking. And also, I think really, season 1, the finale of season 1 opens with Ellie being born. Like her mom is attacked by infected, and then she is born as her
Wow.
mother is dying and is saved by Marlene. But that was like an infected attack. And then here we have another living, non-infected human killing this mother, and a much worse outcome where the baby does not make it. And it was, I think, just like the change in these two scenes in the finale, like Joelle's talking about, with kids, with the offspring and like the future generations not working out this time, feels so depressing and dark.
Yeah.
And like,
I mean,
granted,
I would argue the worst thing that Ellie did was not immediately turn around when she found out that Dina is pregnant. Like,
Yes.
what are you talking
Exactly,
about? Like, okay,
exactly.
come to your
1000%.
senses and go back.
Even if, like Dina did, she said, "Oh, I don't think." I want revenge too. I don't give a shit. Get on the fucking horse. We're going home.
Stop.
Like
Yeah,
that's
somebody's
got
gotta
to
be. Yeah.
And I really loved what they did with Jesse and Ellie in this episode. I think
Right.
those conversations are
Where he puts the responsibility squarely on her. Hey, what about my life? What about my relationship with my
What
child?
about
Like,
my
I have to live
child?
too, and I'm here bailing you out of this.
Yeah, and I also thought there was something so interesting. We have been quite critical of the way the WLF and the scars have kind of been left as almost these kind of archetypal antagonists rather than any kind of given much depth. But I thought what was kind of unbelievable in this episode was just realizing how absolutely nihilistic and unnecessary the whole war is, and how clear it's like, actually, this is fucking stupid. Like, you guys could be living in this space and there is no need for you to be chopping out each other's guts or sniping people. Like, why the fuck does it matter? Like, that's what you're choosing to do.
But then also
after
highlighting
this?
how ingrained it is
Yes,
in the
it's
culture.
like
By
a
having a
cycle
4-year-old
they
be like,
can't-
yeah, no, cut her guts. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
it's so ingrained in how they operate. They can't even think beyond, like even Abby's rushing in at the end. Like, in our first interaction with Abby, the show makes a change from the games. We understand to some extent her decision making, but we're so on Joel's side
Yeah.
of things where and it's awful to watch Ellie have to process this in real time. At the end, though, you're kind of like, I get why you got to shoot Ellie, girl. She
Yeah.
killed your pregnant
Yeah.
bestie. Like, she's out here wreaking havoc. You
Owen
let her
was
go.
clearly very close to Abby, whether it's the partnership or whatever. I also think something that was really well done is I liked the changes they made to Owen and Mel's story from the game. Like,
What were the changes? I don't recall.
If in the game, Owen kind of like runs away from the WLF after he accidentally kills another member, and Mel does die, but it is not in the situation where Ellie is like purposefully not going to kill her. It's like she's going to kill her, then she finds out she's pregnant and she's upset afterwards, and that is one of the most heart-wrenching parts of part 2. But I think the way that they did it this time, where Ellie clearly did not want to kill either of them, but again, that cycle of violence, Owen has to get the gun. Owen doesn't believe that Ellie is going to allow them to live, so he tries to kill her, and that leads to both of them dying, and that kind of horrific shock. And this is, I'm not going to lie, this is also a trope I love from films and TV, where you think somebody has survived and then you realize that actually they have also been shot. You know, I thought that was so affecting. And I also think the actress that plays Mel is just unbelievable. The small amount of time that she has on screen and the absolute impact that she makes is just, I want to see her in a million other things. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And that moment, like you said, Aaron, like when she's telling Ellie, like her nursing, her caretaker nature, she just can't stop it. So she's kind of saying to Ellie, like, you're doing great. Like, like she's just so kind to Ariella Berra. And she is just so fantastic. And I think I was already a fan of hers from Stargirl, but I just was really moved by those scenes, and I felt like they gave us a lot more to go on.
It was like
both.
discovering the core of who she was.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if
And
everything
how
else
it
is going
impacts
away
Ellie.
and this is just her lizard brain left, this was just a nice woman.
Yeah, it's really. It also made me think about how much. One, how easy it is to become the bad guy without realizing it. Ellie doesn't realize that she is the villain in these people's lives. And two, how much like more successful the WLF revenge mission was. It's like,
Oh my god,
maybe,
it's like shockingly better planned.
You know what? You know how one of the most ancient sayings, "Revenge is a dish best served cold," and here's why: it took 5 years, but they got the right. They did get the right guy. Did they go too far? They tortured him. It's terrible what happened, but they got the one guy.
But they got the
that they were-
accomplishment. They didn't go.
They
into
got the
town.
one.
But I think
no
Jason-
extra deaths. They got the one guy. Ellie, this thing.
They
how
put
many
Dina
people
to
have-
sleep. She was
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.
She was
They
safe.
let
They
Ellie
didn't-
live.
They let Ellie live, and you look at what Ellie's done, and it's collateral damage.
But I
Left,
think that
right,
also
and
speaks to
center.
the show's like final theme of like
Yeah.
community. Sorry, my doorbell's ringing. I apologize. 1 second. Okay. It also speaks to the show's final theme of community versus the self. Right? They did it as a community. They all
Yes.
made a pact. They all waited
And it was a
together. They all arrived.
years-long
Yeah.
Years in the
thing.
making.
Whereas
And
Ellie
it
is
was-
like, I can't get my community to back me. I'll just do it myself.
I'm just going to go.
I also think that is such a great point, Joelle, because there's definitely an argument that if Ellie had not gone, the community at some point would have returned to that idea.
I think
or
it was
that
clearly still on the table,
conversation.
right? Yeah.
It was just not right now. Okay, so let's go to an ad break, because I think the next thing I want to talk about is probably going to be a long chat.
It's okay.
And we're back. Aaron and Joel, I would love to know your thoughts on Dina and Ellie having the conversation that didn't happen in the game, where Ellie tells Dina what Joel did, because I found that to be such a nerve-wracking scene, and I think it does kind of change and shift where we leave them at the end of the season. Aaron, how did that work for you?
It felt in the beginning, I felt like Dina reacted too harshly, and then the next morning she's like over it and gives her the bracelet, and I was like, that actually feels very real.
Yeah.
That like someone
Yeah.
you love tells
The
you something, and
swings.
you have two drastically different reactions, and then in the end you're like, we'll have to talk about this more later, but like, you shocked me with this, but I know that there's other things we're dealing with. And so I liked that. I like that this show, I feel like, gets a lot of these interpersonal things correct, or feeling very authentic and real, and not just in a way that it was like, okay, I forgive you, and then 3 episodes later, we should go back to this or something. Like, it felt, that felt authentic. So I really
and there is an
enjoyed that.
urgency, you know?
Yes.
I also think that I have been quite, loudly critical this season of how I feel like the writing has let down Dina and Ellie, often when they're by themselves. But I think this is a season high for, and not just a season, but also a series. I think this episode is incredible. And there were multiple moments, but this was kind of the first big one where I was like, okay, they locked in, they got it. Like, that conversation felt so real and so painful, and I felt like Bella was just firing on all cylinders. Isabella's so incredible when it comes to kind of micro emotions and just how horrified, because the thing is about this secret is that it affects every single person on earth. It affects your best friend, it affects your enemy, and I just thought it was quite astounding. And I was disappointed that we didn't get the Joel and Tommy conversation, but I think this ended up being a good change. Joelle, how did it work for you?
It highlighted so many things, which I thought was really interesting. Like, before this scene, you have Jesse standing outside with the gun. He's skeptical of whether it's Ellie. He decides it is her, lets her in. But he's laid Dina up there, like covered her with a blanket. Like, he's playing protector outside. And there's this real discussion he has later with Ellie where he's like, yeah, I love her, but it's not quite the same. He's like, I've been in like real love before, and it's different. You just see how like Dina and Ellie are in love, but in a way that isn't sort of the sappy, like overly performative. They're equals, like in every like Dina's hurt and she's like, move over, like I'm gonna take care of you. Like there is no looking, they're just completely meeting each other at the same point, and it's so beautiful. And so then when you have this like very vulnerable Ellie, like you completely understand Dina's like heartbreak. Like, we didn't have to, you knew all of this and you didn't let me make a full decision. And that's frustrating.
That's a great way of putting it.
But again, even in the next day, for like that to carry over, Jesse, the first thing he's like, you should not be up. She's like, please, I got this. Like, I'm going to say goodbye. I can barricade the door. She is pregnant. They should have gone back. But like, Dina's like a badass bitch. Like, she's really strong. She did not have fully informed like ability to make a complete decision, but she did want to be by Ellie, and she would have, I think, made the choice to still come and still protect her. I think that they're that locked in, and because of that, it makes like again just everything going forward much more interesting. I wish we could have had some smaller moments like this before. To your point, Rosie, but they nailed this.
Yeah, they did. It also kind of leads to another big conversation, which is really like, what do you guys feel about the way that kind of Jesse interacts with Ellie this episode and with Dina, and that kind of realistic conversations that they're having, and kind of the notion of where this could go, how Ellie views duty, and loyalty, and how Jesse views it, and kind of when Jesse talks about the pressure of knowing everyone wants him to be, the next Maria. I thought that stuff was like pretty incredible, and obviously it makes the end of the episode like even more heartbreaking. Aaron, I
really liked it. I thought that was really
great.
important. I thought that there is there's something very real in Ellie's kind of knee-jerk reaction to Jesse trying to be a sincerely good person by being like, you're such a fucking nerd. Like, that is really, trying to be good and do good things is often like the corniest fucking thing possible, like in real life. And so I thought that felt very true for Ellie to be like, oh, so you're good and I'm bad because like I'm on a revenge mission and you just like want to run Jackson well. But I thought that it was really important that Jesse be not just like the voice of reason, but like the person who calls her out.
Yeah.
from a place of actual responsibility. Here's a person who is going above and beyond to be responsible not just for your life, but for everybody's life here. And look at how reckless you're being in this moment. And I thought that Ellie's anger and frustration at him, the way she calls him out for, oh yeah, like you're good and I'm bad and I'm such a piece of shit. I thought that was so real because that hit home for her. You can tell that it hit her, that she knew in that moment, oh yeah, this is really like stupid what I'm doing.
Like I fucked shit up. Like whatever.
Not that this isn't a worthy thing to do, but the way it's happening right now is irresponsible. It's reckless. I've put many people's lives in danger for something that is for me, is something that I want, not what's best for everybody. And I thought that was really important. I thought that was really important that he said that to her and put that weight on her shoulders, said explicitly, you're responsible for all of these lives, all of these people that came out here to save you, that broke the compact and the contract they had with their larger community just to save you. Realize all the people that broke their word to save you because they care about you. And when he says, listen, I know you'd storm the gates of hell to get me, what he's also saying is, realize your responsibility to these other people around you. Okay, what's the hardest thing that you would do for them? And think about doing that now, not later.
I also found that to be a very interesting moment. It makes me want to cry, actually, because I do think that, again, this is some of the best writing of this season because it's so real and her defensiveness is so relatable. Like if you've ever been the one who caused a problem and then somebody
you
you
realize
love
you
tells
fucked up
you,
and you're getting
it's
called
like
out.
the worst fucking feeling in the world, and we've all been there. And I also love how much depth they gave to Jesse, how much reality about, like, he tells her he gave up real love. He gave up that kind of head rush love that you get where you're both falling for each other and it's the best feeling in the world, because he knew that he couldn't abandon the people who raised him, you know?
Yeah.
And I also think there's an interesting parallel there to the loyalty that Ellie feels for Joel, because that is why Joel was her community, and I loved that line. I'm also very interested to see where they take this, because one of the big criticisms of Last of Us 2 is when Jesse is killed by Abby, it is very much like she says, like, Jesse, and then that's kind of it. And there's not necessarily like a lot of retribution, or it's not often spoken about, and she just kind of gets on with it. But I feel like after that conversation, there's no way that's going to be the case here. And I think that coming to terms with it and understanding, you know, a lot of people have been asking how are they going to end this show when we've already had the porch flashback? Maybe it's not just about Joel. Maybe Ellie's choice to forgive is about Jesse. Maybe it's about somebody else.
Yeah, I think another reason why this and Mel's death, the Jesse scene and Mel's death are so important are they lay the groundwork for Ellie taking responsibility for everything that's happened and not putting it on Abby. Yes, Abby killed Jesse. Jesse's only there because Ellie went there alone, drugged Dina, the mother of Jesse's child, and made all these people come after her, and then refused to go back when they had the chance to go back. So I think that it's going to be very important for that turn if that's the way they decide to go, because you're going to realize she actually doesn't blame Abby for that death. It's her fault. She did that. I wanted to bring up let's take a quick break and then come back, talk more Last of Us 2. And we're back. So Craig Mazin recently came out and said he expects season 3 to be longer than season 2. saying there's no way to complete this narrative in a third season. Especially, listen, at which point I wanted to say, yeah, especially if you only do 7 episodes. let's figure out how to do more.
Yeah, but game timeline wise, I also think that's an absolutely wild thing to say. Unless there's a specific route that they go, which is what I think they're going to do. But yeah,
So
that
question,
was quite
as
a shocking...
someone who's not played the game,
Sure.
what percentage of the way through game 2 are we right now? Roughly.
70%.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
wow.
you could finish it in season 3, but I think my guess is that they will... season 3 will basically just be Abby's journey. I think that's the only way it makes sense.
I think it will be mostly Abby's journey.
Abby's journey, and then you get to this moment, and then I guess season 4 is going to be however they want to expand out this Abby and Ellie moment. But yeah, hopefully longer. I would say 8 episodes. I would have loved an extra episode in this season for sure. But yeah, very interesting to say that in the lead up to the final episode when, yeah, we are almost done with the game.
You know what extra episode we should have gotten? We should have gotten a Jesse episode.
Oh, god damn, you're so right.
Yeah.
I would have fucking...
Yeah.
I agree, especially like young Mazzino. Like, don't waste him.
Yeah.
Honestly,
so
he's
lucky.
so
Yeah,
talented.
yeah.
I love
Jesse bottle
Jesse
episode,
so much.
Dina
I would
bottle
absolutely...
episode.
It may happen. We may get that. Yeah.
I do.
That's a great point.
If we're
I
playing
want to
High
see
in the
those
Sky
2 weeks
Dreams-
with the painter. Give it to
Yeah,
me.
first of all,
Yes,
that would have been a
please.
great, like,
I
in the
would
same way
love
that I
to see
think
someone be
Dina's
happy.
journey at the top would have been really great to see, like, her, like, the story she told about her 8-year-old self, discovering her family and stuff. I do sort of wish we had, like, a bunch of vignettes of, like, Jackson Hole, of, like, in the same way we had those kickoffs at the, in season 1, where it's like, oh, this is someone predicting that mushrooms could survive. Oh, this is someone discovering, like, oh, you got to bomb things because it's going to get out of hand so fast.
That's a great point. That feels so different to anything we got in season 2. I would have loved a little bit of an anthology sprinkle.
100%. 100%. I think those moments were great. And just to quickly circle back to Jesse, I think the way they made us fall in love with Jesse, it's like, he was the future and you've ruined it. Like,
He's the most thoughtful, kind, empathetic, generous. He's so generous with his time, with his friendship. Like, the fact that he didn't just disown Ellie when she essentially like started immediately dating his girlfriend. Like, he had such a fantastic vision of what a community
he came back
needed
for
to
you
be.
twice, even after
Twice.
you were
Yeah.
such a dick to him. He would still
Yeah,
came
you're
back.
such a piece of shit.
It felt like
Truly
Jesse,
such a piece of shit to him.
Jesse was like Captain America and Ellie's like Wolverine. Like every
Yes,
time you
yes,
see them together
yes.
in the comics, it's like one of you really has your shit together and the other one is just like a loose cannon.
You know, Aaron, you made a good point that I think is really important. When Ellie tells Dina about the Joel story about Salt Lake City and all that, and then Dina's mad about it and shocked, but then the next day it seems like it's okay. There was something so true about the way relationships work in that moment where, you know, if you've ever gotten on a big fight on vacation or like home for the holiday, something, you know, in a place where we can't talk about this. Okay, listen, we can't talk about this now. And it hasn't gone away, but we're going to get through this moment right here. And you can bet that we're going to come back and we're going to talk about that.
But for now, we
And-
need to be like in cahoots. We need to be together.
Right now,
and
we
in the
need to get
mindset.
through Thanksgiving or whatever it is, you know, like,
Oh, man, that's real.
That's so real. And all these Jesse moments had that ring of truth about a person. You really understood who Jesse was, not in just like things he said, but in the fact that he showed up. Like, he showed up, he didn't have to show up. How many times has he saved Ellie's life and she can barely say thank you?
Yeah.
Like, and barely recognize what's happening. And that's why, again, I just felt like it was so important for him to call her out. Not Tommy, who is honestly one of these forces who
Enables her.
spoil is the wrong word, but like
No, but there is an
Allowed
emotional spoiling.
allowed Ellie to get away with fucking murder again and
Literally.
again and again to get
Coddled
to
her.
get to
Coddled
this
her.
point. And it was so important that her contemporary, who's on a completely different track, say, "Hey, look at what you're doing. Like, look what you're doing to all of us." That was so important and really rang true.
Okay, so speaking of things that the showrunners have been saying. Let's talk a little bit about this comment that I do think is quite a divisive one. Recently, when asked if the Fireflies could have successfully created a vaccine,
this was
had
crazy.
Joel not killed them, Neil Druckmann, creator of the show and of the game, our intent was yes, they could. He replied, "This is so wild to me.
This is a bad choice.
This is
I
this
think
is
so,
one
too.
of the absolute reasons that this game has stayed in the public consciousness and conversation for so long.
That
Because
ambiguity.
we do
Yeah.
not know, and because people want to talk about it. People want to imagine what they would do, how they would deal with it. Joel is, to many people who played the game, he is in the right. He is a hero. They are not as horrified by what he did. And I think that Druckmann and Mason did a great job, as we've talked about quite extensively in the season 1 finale, of showcasing just how horrific what Joel did was. But also in this season, we have seen the scars. We have seen the WLF. These are people who will destroy other people, who will torture other people, who will kill other people. So the world that they live in is violent. Violence is kind of at the heart of everything in the show, except for what we see in Jackson Hole. And I think that this is just absolutely a wild thing to say, because it completely changes and ends a lot of the conversations. Aaron, when we were in the group chat talking about this, how was your feeling as someone who has not played the game?
I preferred not knowing, and I am shocked to hear you say that is one of the reasons that the game has remained so powerful, because that's the kind of mental philosophical question that most video games do not even attempt to tackle. And so the fact that this game did it is amazing, and the fact that we lost it is horrible.
Yeah.
Again,
Joelle, tell me more, Joelle, because you are like, all of us here are creatives, and Joelle is a fantastic writer, in case you didn't know. So from a writer's perspective, could you talk a little bit about how that hit for you?
I think it zaps a lot of the energy out of, first, the game is a different vehicle. So that's putting you in Joel's shoes. So you not knowing.
That's important to call out.
And also not being able to make a different choice. Like, it puts you in a very strange place of, you're understanding his, confusion. You don't want to do what he's doing. He's still doing it. It's this very strange, tandem relationship of destruction. And it really hinges on not knowing. Because if you know, then you're just playing the baddie, which can be fun, or whatever.
But it's a different game.
It takes a lot of the energy out. For the show, I think it removes a lot of the friction between Abby and Ellie, and I think that's
because
a
it makes Abby
disappointment.
Right. It just makes her right.
Yeah, because otherwise, what you're left with are two women stepping into their adulthood and leadership positions, and both really struggling with the past, what's been done to them, and with their future and how they want to live it. And that's really, and they're totally even at this point, both so justified, understandably. It's way different if it's Joel was a dick and now you're a dick and you're looking at Abby I guess you got to shoot her, girl, because that's the rules of this universe. I don't know what else to do. You need that confusion. And I understand as a creator, wanting to share oh no, Joel's totally
Right.
bad. I get that
he sucks
instinct.
if you think
Of
he's
course.
right. And obviously after the first season, I will say there was there's, as we've mentioned, there's been a lot of really wild online discourse about this show throughout its history. But at the end of season 1, there was a
God.
lot of people who were super mad about the way Joel was portrayed, who felt like he was. So I do also imagine that there is a eagerness on Druckmann's part to kind of maybe make the morals and ethics of the show and its characters
Sure,
a
if
little
you make
bit
a game
clearer.
about the horrors of violence and people keep coming away with he was right, you gotta be smashing your head against a wall. Why don't people understand?
Yeah. I think from a process point of view, right? You're in the writer's room. I think it makes complete sense to come to have a direction in that sense, in terms of could the Fireflies actually have done it? To
But
discuss
I don't
that
need
and
to
to
know.
come
Keep it
and to
in the
land in a
writer's
place.
room.
But I do think that, to your point, there's a reason why we still talk about The Sopranos. finale, and it's because you just don't know. You're discussing
That's
it.
such a
You're
great comp.
dissecting it. You're wondering which way does this break, and does it even matter to have
it
an
matter?
answer, right? And I think in that way, not knowing hews more closely to what life is like. Like it's just a road not taken. And knowing makes it more explicitly a video game story. We can play it again.
Yes,
now
yes,
knowing
yes, yes.
what had happened. You know what I mean?
That's actually a great
And so I
point.
think it does. To me, it makes it a little less cool. The story a little less magical and resonant to actually know that they could have done it. I always lean that way in my heart, but not
Oh, me
knowing
too. But
is
also-
part of why we love talking about this story.
It's also kind of hilarious to come down on it on one side like that, because as we have pointed out many times, both in the games and in the games, there is more evidence with the notes and the recordings that maybe the Fireflies
Sure.
were onto something. But like
Yeah.
in the show and the game, both, it did not look like they were going to do any good science in that fucking hospital. Like Salt Lake City did not look like they were making anything that
They
was
were doing
going to
the best
come
with what they had.
close. They did the best with what they had. But like, I think that is another thing where it's this kind of, if it's this moral black and white choice, and the idea is, yeah, they could have, then make me believe it in the story as
has
well.
there-
I
has
never
any
believed
good
it.
ever come from a creator after the work is finished and published, like saying something additional? Just tell me like who the main character's favorite band is.
Let's
Don't give
really
me
not
plot
get
points.
into it, because
Yeah,
we
if
know
you
the
didn't
answer
put
to
it-
that is no.
Right.
Like
So
maybe
just
Blade
don't talk
Runner,
about
and
it.
that's
Yeah.
it. Blade,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
director
yeah,
kept coming
yeah.
back and be like, "No, that's not what I was trying to do. Just hold on." But other than that, usually not great.
Okay, another big kind of news point that we should hit on post the finale is Druckmann revealed that they were actually working on a different game other than Intergalactic, which I'm really excited about because it has Tati Gabrielle as
Hell
the main
yeah.
character. She's amazing. I love that they saw how good she was as Nora and wanted to give her a bigger space. But everyone thought, well, that was it. So it is part of the reason that they're saying, well, we can't finish the story in 3 seasons because the new game is going to be Last of Us Part 3.
Yeah.
And it comes out alongside season 4. And that is
Yes.
kind of what they
Corporate-
control.
Corporate synergy. You can see
Yes.
it coming,
Very
right?
Scott
makes
Pilgrim.
it makes absolutely too much sense.
I mean, he's not he's out here like dropping these nuggets like in a
Right?
row, so I feel like, yes, that's what we're supposed
It
to
makes way too much sense.
Jason,
And
as
by the way, the last thing you want, as if you're Druckmann, I think,
yeah.
is for a season of television to come out that blows up your game. Like they
Yeah,
need
true,
to come
true,
out
true.
in tandem or basically at the same time, so one does not necessarily spoil the other. That's
Jason,
what I think they would want.
As someone who's played the games like many
Yeah.
times and what would you want to see in a Last of Us Part 3? Like, where does it go for you? What do you want to look at? Who does it explore?
well, listen.
It's an
looking
open
at-
world racing game. You always get a blue shell.
you can play as a cow.
Well, I mean, listen. Coming to this with, with storyteller brain, having been storyteller pilled,
We are
it's
all
hard for
storyteller
me
films.
not to see this as an elaborate kind of to see like a WWE / superhero structure in this. What do I mean? You have Hero 1 and Hero 2. They meet, they don't get along, they hate each other, they fight. Then what happens?
Team up. Is it a team up?
Wow.
I don't
The
know how it would
Abby
happen.
Ellie team up
I
game.
don't know how it would happen,
You're not
but
wrong.
it feels like the only place. Listen, you know how storytelling goes. Character A can't do this thing, refuses to do this thing. The arc must be that they do the thing, right? How do they get together? How do they cooperate? I think that that's the only place this story can
sounds,
go.
honestly,
and
like
the
the
fact
best
that you
option.
can't imagine how it will get there means that Druckmann and Mazin are really going to be, or Druckmann, primarily, is really going to be in the lab making it make sense that they would get to that place where they cooperate. I
Yeah.
think that's the only place
I think
that
it
can
makes
go.
a lot of sense. Also, as well, maybe some kind of quest to undo what Joel did and find a cure.
Some kind of
with-
larger
I had heard
something,
a
yeah.
rumor that Tommy was going to be the main character of the third
Interesting.
game. And if that's the case, it makes a lot of sense to me that they gave him a kid in this season, which he does not have in the game, right? And it sort of like helps you fast track to whatever's going on in game 3. Potentially this is just a rumor. And I like the idea of like, if what we're continuing in is like what's left behind in the legacy. We've got so many children on the board right now. We've got Dina's kid. We've got Tommy's kid. We don't really know what's going on with Abby and her stuff, but I imagine we get some form of like younger sibling or apprentice or whatever from there. And maybe what we're seeing is Tommy trying to help that generation not end up like the ones
That
previous.
would be a really delightful kind of... Aaron, what would interest you most as someone who hasn't watched the game if you were going to kind of paint a season 4 or a season 3 that you would want that doesn't go along with what you know of the game and just is based on what you've seen in the show? What do you think you'd be most interested in continuing to explore?
I mean, Jason said it, I think.
Yeah.
The two
You
of them
think you've
teaming
gotta
up.
do the team up.
There's some way that actually someone else has an idea of how to make a vaccine, and
Right.
the two of them go, and now like
Let's fix it.
yeah,
Yeah.
get the sins of our fathers, and here we go.
Right,
And
yeah.
So that would be, I think, a slam dunk.
That sounds honestly pretty fantastic. Okay, last questions before we wrap it up. What do you need to see in season 3 to make you care about Abby after we saw her just shoot Jesse in the face? You know, Joel, whatever, we've kind of talked about that, but Joelle and Aaron, what do you need to see to care about Abby and empathize with her situation?
Already care about Abby. The show makes a really strong and decisive decision to be like, from go, you understand like what Abby's mourning, and because that rage has already been cemented twice already with Joel and Ellie, it's very easy to understand. Like it's part of the disease, and in the same way, 28 Days Later is like the rage is the thing that turns you. I really think like there's parallels here between like. Again, oh God, the community versus the individual. The mushrooms are a community. They work really well together. Rage is dividing these humans. It's stopping them from being able to come together and work together. And so I think for me, what I'm hoping we get out of Abby is like, I almost don't. I love Bella Ramsey. They should be able to do whatever, but I almost don't want to see them in the next season.
Oh wow.
I think it
You
would
know
be
what I
very
mean?
brave
I
and
think
interesting
just- I
think
to
it would be
really
very,
do
very
an
brave.
Abby.
It would be challenging, and
season.
also I know it's really difficult in our current time to figure out, like, as a studio, like, how do we protect our performers and still tell a good story? There's a lot of balance to be like, if you just remove Bella Ramsey, is that like when Star Wars just hid the characters people didn't like and like banished
Yeah.
them?
Yeah,
is Rosie
yeah.
just gone? Or is this part of the story? And so it has to be tactfully done. I think Craig's got a deft enough pen to nail it. But I would like to see is it's just purely Abby's journey, so that by the time we get to that gun pull, we're fully understanding all 360 sides of it, and the final episode is the resolution fallout of that moment.
Yeah.
That's all I see. What about you?
I mean, I want some sweet moments of Abby and her friends because we have only really seen her be upset with them and short with them, and she is so filled with rage, and these people who have done something horrible with her, and they're the ones
And
paying
for
the
her.
price. Yeah, for her, and they're the ones paying the price. Give me a reason to. This is the wrong phrase, but to know it was worth it. Like, is she? What did these people give up?
Why did
everything
they love
for?
her?
Yeah. What is it? So I
Yeah.
want to know more about that. I understand she lost her father. I need
Yeah.
more about why so many people trusted her. And I mean, she's like tapped in to be the new face of the WLF. Like, why is everyone so in on her when, to me, she's like right now a really good mirror for Ellie, who we know is not going to be taking over Jackson Hole, from at least from what I can see. Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference with Abby? So that's what I want to see.
Okay. Also, just before we finish, Jason, you brought up The Sopranos. Let's talk about the ending. Jason, how
Real
did that
TV
work
is
for you? cut
Real
to
TV
black.
is back.
This is like a crazy 90s style ambiguous ending. How are people gonna, I know that you guys, there's gonna be people who are so mad about this.
I
in the
had two
Hangouts.
reactions, which is the same reaction basically I have to any effective cliffhanger, which is one like, fuck you.
And that's why you know it works. That's why you know it works.
Fuck you. You don't have the balls to do it. I know you don't, but maybe you do.
Maybe you do.
And then there's the maybe you do. So I thought it was very effective. And I also listen, and I think a lot of people are going to have that reaction of fuck you. Are you serious? Fuck you. Craig Mazin, Neil Druckmann. What about you? What were everybody's reaction? What were your reactions?
I mean, just wow, really.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially because what you're really stuck in is not even that gunshot. I'm still thinking about Jesse. Like I can't.
Yeah, you don't even have time. You don't even have time to process it. Yeah.
No, it's so chaotic and it's so for Tommy to be like, run. You're like, there's no running from this, Tommy. Please grow up. And you're like worried about like, where's Dina? We don't even see her. Hopefully she's hiding, but for how long does that work? But really, you're just like, we just lost everything. Like it really, and it's crazy because we didn't get a lot of time with Jesse, but you're just like, it's all gone.
Oh
like,
no, he was such a good person. Performance. He's
it truly
so fucking
was.
good.
It's so solid, and I think like that to me makes the freezing of time feel right. Like it's so chaotic and it's so emotionally overwrought, and it's just like, and just stay suspended here. We'll be right back. I was like, I love this. This really works for me. What about you, Aaron?
I mean, it was a huge shock, and I loved it. And now, looking back at it, I am glad that they didn't cut to black and then do Ellie's recording of "Take on Me" by Aha. I would have been
Too
upset.
much Take on Me.
Would have been upset. Yeah.
No, but you know what? I think I agree with all of you, and I also think like now we've talked about it. If they really do not have Bella in season 3, and that's how they end season 2, that's going to be some brave fucking TV.
Yeah,
like that,
absolutely.
If you don't get a resolution till the finale of season 3 to know the outcome, and there's the 90% of you're not fucking brave enough, but there's the 10% of, oh, what if you are? Like,
you already
so
did
far,
it.
Craig's not taking notes from folks, so it feels like whatever happens is like exactly his vision and his and Neil's. And so yeah, I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, that's it for our The Last of Us 2 season finale roundtable. Joelle,
We did it,
Aaron,
guys.
thank you so much for joining us. Coming up in the next few episodes of Extra Vision, we're continuing to look at summer movies with a history of the stunts in the Mission Impossible franchise. And next week we have a send-off for the beloved Nintendo Switch and a look back at the John Wick franchise as we get ready for Ana de Armas in Ballerina. That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
X-Ray Vision is hosted by Jason Concepcion
And Rosie Knight.
and is a production of iHeart Podcast.
Our executive producers are Joelle Monique and Aaron Kaufman.
Our supervising producer is Abu Zafar.
Our producers are Carmen Laurent, Ian Johnson, and Bei Wang.
Our theme song is by Brian Vasquez with alternate theme songs by Aaron Kaufman.
Special thanks to Sol Rubin, Chris Lord, Kenny Goodman, and Heidi, our Discord moderator.